this morning I just wanted to talk some about all the waste that we have around us. I've spent a lot of the morning throwing stuff into the recycle bin and just trying to reorganize stuff for the future and thinking to myself, wow, it's amazing to see how quickly stuff accumulates and how much stuff we really have that we don't need. I know for myself that it's very easy to accumulate things that I don't need. I remember when I left Mercy ships. Well, I should say, I remember when I left the ship, the Anastasis, probably now, 35 years ago, everything I owned fitted into the back of my car. Can you imagine it? Everything I owned. When Tom and I were married and I moved to Seattle from Texas, we rented a 10-foot truck to put all my stuff in, to bring it up here, to add to his stuff, of course. Well, now, as you can imagine, a 10-foot truck would not put a dent in everything that I own. And I think as Tom's situation deteriorates, I realize that I need to look at my life too and consider what am I going to do with all the stuff I have? And how am I either going to manage to downsize my own life or even just to cope with things on a day-to-day basis? I think I'm more concerned than ever about waste. Maybe it's partly because of my work in the garden, because in the garden, there is, believe it or not, no waste if we do things properly. If we compost, if we grow things from seed, if we do things in an organized fashion, there is actually a net gain from the things that we plant in the garden, not a net waste. I love to shred the leaves and everything, or I should say the branches, as we do pruning in the garden, because that thing can be added to the garden as mulch as well. And there is no waste at all if we have that kind of a system in the garden. And that's true whether we have a small garden or a biggish garden like mine or a whole huge property that some people have. So I have been going through a lot of stuff over the last few months, as you can imagine. I've slowly been sorting through Tom's clothes, which has made me also sort through my own clothes, looking at kitchen excess and other parts as well of what I've accumulated around the house that really need to get rid of. So much sorting to do and what to do with it. Well, firstly, I like to ask myself the question, do I need it? It's easy to convince myself that I need a lot of things that I don't really need. And honestly, asking myself this question, usually in the presence of others, because they're usually the ones that help me to be realistic about what I'm doing with things, is very important for me. And I'm finding that it's helping me to get rid of clothes, both mine and Tom's, and shoes that I no longer wear. Some of these have worn out, but I must confess I have had a little bit of an orgy of buying new shoes in the last couple of weeks because I have a stress fracture. Actually, I have two stress fractures in my right foot. And rather than putting me in a boot, I've been advised to wear shoes that have good, solid, unbendable soles on them. And 90% of the shoes in my closet did not fit that category. So I have acquired a couple of pairs of sandals and another pair of shoes as well that make it possible for me to walk and to look nice at times as well. But they'll probably be, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the last shoes that I buy. My second question is, who can make better use of this than I can? Giving things away has become a delight for me. Over the last few months, I have discovered friends who can eagerly use things that I have been hoarding. For example, we had some oil lamps stored in the garage that have been there since before Tom and I were married, believe it or not. And I discovered a couple of weeks ago a friend who is using these kinds of oil lamps in decorating their log cabin. And I can tell you, they're not inexpensive when you see them on Facebook Marketplace, but it is a delight to be able to give these to him and to see him use them and delight in them in a way that I certainly wasn't doing with them sitting up in the cupboard. Secondly, I have really enjoyed giving Tom's clothing away to people that delight in it. Slippers that I bought for him when I was in Australia last year that he wore for a couple of months. And then, of course, when he went into the home, they didn't want him using them. They wanted things like Crocs or very easy to take off and on shoes. But a friend delighted in being able to have these as a reminder of Tom for him. Probably the hardest thing for me to give away has been the hand-knitted sweaters that I've made for him. I've given a couple away, but I still have a couple of vests that I'm not quite sure what to do with because they, in a way, you could say they have part of me in them as well as a reminder of Tom because I used to delight in watching Tom wear these things. And so I am still in two minds as to what to do with them, but I'm sure that I will figure them out in the future. Secondly, I'm asking myself, how can I reuse reuse things, sell them, or give them away? I have become more creative about how to reuse items that I don't need for their usual use. Probably planting plants in them is one of the biggest places that I like to recycle. So teacups, teapots, plates, all kinds of things out of the kitchen have become wonderful second use pots for me. I have seen people that have used these for making bird feeders and bird. Some of the birds need small sources of water, and they're a great use for this as well. So that's something else that I'm thinking about. And then I have found that our local Buy Nothing group is a great way to get rid of things that I no longer need and to see somebody else delight in the possibility of using them for a project that they have been thinking of or excess from the kitchen as well. I mean, lately I've given away, it sounds a little strange, mustard, mushroom coffee, mushroom cocoa. Yes, that's something that I tried for a while but decided it just had no use for me. And other things like that as well. Keeping an eye on the expiration dates and getting them away to somebody else before they expire is something that I am becoming very apt at, and I really recommend it to you. The other thing is asking yourself, what can you grow yourself? And the simplest place to start, because you can even do this on a windowsill, is to grow some of the basic herbs. Have you noticed how expensive herbs are in the supermarket? Well, we have a whole bed that is dedicated to the growing of herbs. So I've got sage and I've got oregano and I've got thyme and I've got basil and I have got borage and I've got a few other herbs as well. And I love going out because there is nothing more fragrant than going out and touching each of these herbs at different times. And of course, being able to use fresh herbs in cooking is a great delight as well. But if you've got very limited space, maybe the couple of herbs that you use the most on the windowsill is something to consider. Also asking, what could I make myself? One of the things I've been throwing out is the accumulated plastic containers from yogurt, because I used to make my own yogurt, but over the last year, because of Tom's deteriorating situation, I started buying yogurt again. Now, I don't buy the little single dose um, containers, but I, buy the 32 or 64 ounce containers. But even so, because I love yogurt, it accumulates pretty quickly. And so one of my resolves for the next couple of weeks is to go back to making my own yogurt. And that can probably save me about 50 plastic containers a year. 50 containers that hopefully will not end up in the recycle bin or in the trash or something like that. And of course, in spite of all that we do, there is still a lot of plastic accumulating. Now, here in Seattle, it's a lot easier to get rid of some of these things than it is for other people in other parts of the country, the United States, that is. I find that Europe is incredible at getting people to recycle things. Here in the United States, not so much. Seattle, you use your own bags at the supermarket as much as you possibly can. You can recycle not just paper, but plastic and some other substances too. And then we have this additional recycling organization called Ridwell that takes forms of plastic that the general recycle doesn't. They take styrofoam, they take batteries, they take fluorescent lights. They take lots of things that other forms of recycle don't. So we're very, very fortunate here to have these. And of course, clothing, if you can't get rid of it through your Buy Nothing group, which I've found is a very good way to get rid of clothing, then Ridwell will take it. Or if it's still usable, obviously Goodwill is another place to take it. Though I'm finding that Goodwill is wanting less and less of some of the things that they used to take for recycle. Like old furniture, it's getting harder to recycle old furniture than it once was. So, what else can we do? Well, the other thing is to cut down on the packaging when we buy new things. More and more companies that sell online are using just the original packaging and cutting down on the own packaging that they use. And that's a great thing to see. So looking when you're buying something online of what kind of packaging do they use is something to consider as well. There are lots of simple steps that we can take. Looking to see what else I've written down here. But I think to recognize that, we all have far too much stuff. I'm even challenged by this when I go to visit friends in Europe who tend to have much less stuff than we have here in the United States, or family in Australia who again have much less stuff than I have accumulated. And I realize that, and here's a confession, one of my responses to stress in the last year has tended to be to buy stuff I don't need. So now that I'm under less stress and I am working on ways to reduce that stress even further, not by getting rid of the situation that caused stress, but by learning to manage my stress better, really helps me to cut back on the things that I buy that I don't really need. And so these are some of the challenges that I have for you today. What could you do in terms of the waste that you do? Asking yourself those basic questions, and I'll put these in the show notes as well. What do you need? Could you make? Who could make better use of some of the things that you have? How can you reuse, sell it, or give it away? What can you grow yourself? Or what can you make yourself? And these things can be a delight. I don't want to put more strain on people because I know that for some people, making their own meals or growing their own food can be a huge stress. And so think of things that you can do that aren't stressful for you. Or maybe do something with a friend who delights in cooking or who delights in growing their own things. Yeah, I'm always looking for help in the garden. And so kind of coming together as a community and sharing together in these different ways are ways that we can really cut down on our waste. So my challenge to you this morning is, what can you do to cut down on your waste and to move forward in a way that really will help all of us take better care of this planet. Many blessings on you this day. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weekend, and may God be with you in all that you do.